thank you for welcoming me. I was told there's nothing scarier than getting sentenced to federal prison. And I can tell you, addressing a crowd this large is scarier than getting sentenced to federal prison. I can promise you that much. It's a big deal for me, and I thank you for having me. On January 11, 2005, two very kind security guards walked me down from my corner office overlooking Los Angeles Country Club in Studio City. They walked me down from my office to the lower level parking in my luxury sedan BMW. They were so kind they helped me carry 3 boxes to put into my car. That's the day that I was fired from UBS for my role in facilitating a Ponzi scheme. A little more than 3 years later, on April 28, 2008, I self-surrendered to federal prison. To support myself during that 3+ year window, and to pay the nearly $417,500 in legal fees that follow any white-collar crime investigation, to support myself, I sold real estate, thriving California real estate market. I liked selling real estate. The morning I surrendered to federal prison, I wrapped up a real estate deal, and I was able to support myself the whole time I was away. Satisfying. And even while I was in federal prison, I wrote a daily blog, I wrote a book with pen and paper. I did that as a hobby, to help get through the days of separation from my mom and dad and my family and my dog and women in my own toilet. Kept my mind busy and active, because I knew when I was released from jail, I'd go right back to my real estate career. And I did. I was released from prison in August of 2009, after serving an 18-month term for securities fraud. And after my release, I went right back to real estate, working at the Distinguished House of Sotheby's. In late 2009, I received a letter from the Department of Real Estate that said, because of my felony conviction, they are taking proceedings to revoke my license. I wasn't surprised when I got the letter. I expected it. I retained a lawyer. The last $7,500 I could take on a credit card was the last money I ever gave to a lawyer. And I started to prepare my case. March 9th of this year, I went in front of the Department of Real Estate. I spoke openly and honestly in front of the judge. I discussed some of the pressures, the motivations, the influences that took me from what should have been a distinguished life to the depths of federal prison. I told them I had no excuse to go to federal prison, that I had privileges in jail that most men can only dream of. I had no excuse, and I offer one today. My lawyer spoke truthfully that I sold real estate for more than 4 years, that I had 15 client letters on my behalf supporting me, that my crime was in separate industries. I felt strong. Then the lawyer from the Department of Real Estate stood up. She walked over to the table, and she picked up my book. She looked at the front and the back. She flipped through it a few times, and then she just threw it down. And then she pointed at me in front of the judge and said, I don't need a book to know that Justin Paperny is a convicted felon that ruined people's lives while facilitating a Ponzi scheme. I don't need a daily log from prison to know that Justin Paperny lacks character. He's a hazard. An individual is fit to hold a license who have got to determine character. He lacks character, revoke it. I still held out faith. 2 months later, on Monday afternoon, I went home, opened up the key to my mail slot, and I saw the letter from the Department of Real Estate. And I did exactly what we do when we get into college. Is it too thick? Is it too thin? I'm trying to determine if it's going to be a good answer. I ripped it open, and there it was. 6-page ruling. The first paragraph said, all of your duties as a professional have been revoked. Send back your memorabilia. You're no longer a real estate agent. And I stood there in my apartment's lobby, and I was angry. I was angry that I didn't understand the consequences that could follow bad behavior way back when. And then my anger yielded to nervousness and fright, because I knew what I thought would be a hobby, speaking and writing a little bit, would now have to be my full-time career. A full-time career that most of the time doesn't pay, including today. Imagine such a job. That's what a lot of convicted felons face. And I went outside, and I spent a few minutes thinking about this new full-time career. And I wondered if it even makes a difference. To make a difference what I'm doing. And then I have to admit, when I was in your shoes, or just got a little better. when I was a student at the University of Southern California, when I was a stockbroker at Bear Stearns or Merrill Lynch or UBS, had I heard my message, I wouldn't have paid attention. I would have tuned out. In many ways, I've been offended that a guy 11 months out of federal prison is talking to me about ethics or gray areas. There was nothing in my background that proved that I could be a criminal. I grew up in Encino, California, a Jewish enclave, about 25-minute outside Los Angeles. Like most of you, I'm sure, wonderful parents that taught me right from wrong, instilled good habits, held my brother and I accountable if we made mistakes. As a young man, I was a distinguished athlete, participating in 3 World Series tournaments, culminating in 1995 when I was a good basis for the USC baseball team and lost the national championship game. There was nothing in my past that suggested I could be a criminal. And since I couldn't ever conceive of myself as a criminal, I certainly couldn't consider the ancillary consequences that could follow that behavior. Never. That's why I tuned out. Dismissed my message. And I wish I had listened. I wish I listened on June 16, 2002. Alan sent me a note a couple of months back and said, these are some points we'd like you to cover. One of them was, went to the fraud again. June 16, 2002. Before I tell you what happened on that day, you need to know what happened on June 16, 2001. On June 16, 2001, my business partner and I expected $1 million signing bonus to move our book of business from Bear Stearns to UBS, right across the street in Central City. I was 25 years old. I thought it was all the money in the world. I never really understood my profession for years. I was just a good salesman. I knew how to cold call. I was that guy that would call you during dinner on a Tuesday night, convincing you to buy stock so I could get paid. That was my first 3 years as a stockbroker. We had no loyalty. Our loyalty was to our paycheck. We took that $1 million signing bonus, went to UBS, and for the first time in my life, I felt a sense of pressure from many fronts. The day I got that check, my senior business partner said to me, I think your bonus was too big. You better prove worthy of this bonus. If you come into mine, I'm going to do this on a leap of faith. Okay. I felt pressure immediately from UBS to perform and justify getting such a big bonus at such a young age. Getting $1 million bonus leads to significant tax obligations. The IRS wants their money. And I had to pay the taxes on my bonus over 60 months. And I had to pay the taxes whether I made money or not. So I'm 25 years old and I had to make $10,000 a month before I'd ever see a paycheck. Because whatever I made gross went to pay the taxes. Now some of you may say, well, who cares? You got the money in the bank. You just live on that money. And I did. Because I wasn't producing as much. When you transfer a book of business, you don't produce as much. And I got nervous when I saw my bank account dwindling down to keep up with my high lifestyle. 26, broker at UBS, vice president, the country club, the Rolex, the home. I'm starting to attribute myself or my worth as a man by what I have in relation to others. And I didn't like my bank account was dwindling. And then the worst thing happened. The business model changed at UBS. Brokerage firms no longer wanted stockbrokers like me to cold call. They didn't want me calling you at home on a Tuesday night anymore to generate a commission. They wanted us to move to fixed fees, managed money. For example, if you had a $100,000 portfolio with me, I could trade that portfolio to as much as $10,000 a year in commissions. Pretty good. Under the new fixed model, I'm only going to charge you 2% a year. That's a pretty wide gap. That's $8,000 in income drop just on your account. I had $100 million in their assets. 600 clients. You extrapolate that loss over a whole book of business, it was scary. My production went down by more than half, and UBS was not pleased. They said, we gave you this bonus. You're supposed to do more, not less. Figure it out. I saw friends of mine receive similar bonuses, getting fired.